What I'm about to tell you might sound extreme, but I've spent the last 2 weeks analyzing what happened during the economic collapses in Venezuela, Argentina, and Sri Lanka. And honestly, what I discovered kept me up at night. When the economy crashes, it's not just food that disappears from shelves. There are 10 specific household products that become so scarce, people literally fight over them in store aisles. I'm not talking about your typical prepper list here, folks. These are everyday items sitting in your bathroom and kitchen right now that will become more valuable than gold when supply chains collapse. If you're still watching, hit that subscribe button, because what I'm about to share could save your family from dangerous situations in the coming months. Let me break down the 10 household products that will cause absolute chaos, and trust me, number 7 will shock you. Item 1. Toilet paper. Let's start with the obvious one that most people think they understand. We all remember March 2020, right? But there's what most people don't realize. That wasn't even a real economic collapse. That was just a supply chain hiccup. During Venezuela's economic meltdown in 2018, I spoke with Maria, a nurse from Caracas, who told me something chilling. She said toilet paper became so valuable that people were trading it for meals. One roll of toilet paper equaled 3 days' worth of rice. Think about that for a second. But there's the kicker. It's not just about the shortage. It's about manufacturing. When economies collapse, luxury production stops first. And yes, soft toilet paper is considered a luxury. The factories switch to making cardboard and packaging materials for essential goods. Here's what the supply chain experts aren't telling you publicly. The average household uses about 40 rolls per month. Most families have maybe a 2-week supply at home. Do the math. When the trucks stop running, you've got 14 days before things get desperate. I personally keep a 6-month supply now. Not because I'm paranoid, but because I've seen what happens when civilized people can't maintain basic dignity. Store it in a dry place, and remember, this isn't just about comfort. It's about preventing disease and maintaining sanitation when medical care becomes scarce. Item 2. Feminine hygiene products. Now, this is something most survival channels won't talk about, but it's absolutely critical. During economic collapses, feminine hygiene products disappear faster than almost anything else. Why? Because they're not locally produced in most countries and require complex manufacturing processes. Here's a shocking statistic from the International Red Cross. During the Lebanese economic crisis in 2020, feminine hygiene products increased in price by 400% within just 2 months. Women were cutting up old clothes and using unsafe alternatives, leading to massive increases in infections. But here's what really gets me angry about this situation. Half the population needs these products, yet they're completely ignored in most emergency planning. I spoke with Dr. Sarah Chen, who worked in disaster relief in Sri Lanka, and she told me that the lack of proper hygiene products caused more hospital admissions than food shortages in the first month. My advice to everyone, and I mean everyone, not just women, stock up on these now. They're lightweight, have long shelf lives, and they could literally save lives. Plus, they become incredible barter items. I know a GUI in Argentina who traded a box of tampons for a month's worth of antibiotics during their collapse. Item 3. Soap and hand sanitizer. Listen up, because this one's already starting to happen and most people haven't noticed. The price of quality soap has jumped 2% since last year, and it's not slowing down. During economic collapses, personal hygiene products become scarce because the chemical supply chains break down first. Here's something that'll blow your mind. In Venezuela, a bar of antibacterial soap was selling for the equivalent of $15 in 2019. People were literally cutting bars into quarters to make them last longer. My contact there told me families were sharing single bars between 6 people. But here's the real problem. When soap becomes scarce, disease spreads rapidly. The World Health Organization published a study showing that during economic collapses, preventable diseases increase by 340% in the first 6 months. Why? Because people can't maintain basic hygiene. Hand sanitizer is even worse. The alcohol shortage hits immediately because governments often redirect ethanol production to fuel. I learned this the hard way when I tried to find sanitizer during the early pandemic. The supply chain is more fragile than you think. Stock up on bar soap, not liquid. It lasts longer, doesn't require plastic packaging that becomes scarce, and you can even make your own if you have to. I keep about 50 bars stored in a cool, dry place. Sounds like a lot, but it's literally life insurance. Item 4, batteries. Now this is where things get dangerous. During the Texas freeze in 2021, batteries became so valuable that people were breaking into cars just to steal them from flashlights. That wasn't even a full collapse, just a temporary infrastructure failure. Here's what happened in Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria, and this is documented fact. AA batteries were selling for $20 each on the black market. People needed them for radios, flashlights, and medical devices. Families were rationing battery power like it was medication. But here's the insider secret that most people miss. It's not just about flashlights. Modern life depends on batteries for everything. Smoke detectors, garage door openers, car key fobs, medical devices like glucose monitors. When the power grid fails and supply chains break, batteries become the difference between safety and chaos. The crazy part is, most people store the wrong batteries. Everyone stocks A and ApoA, but forget about 9-volt batteries for smoke detectors or those weird button batteries for car remotes. I made a complete list of every battery-powered device in my house. Turned out I needed 14 different types. Here's my storage hack. Keep batteries in the refrigerator. They last 5-7 years longer in cold storage. And invest in rechargeable batteries with a solar charger. When the power grid fails, you'll be the only one with working devices. Item 5. Candles and matches. You might think this is old school, but let me tell you why candles will literally save your life during an economic collapse. When the power grid becomes unreliable, and it will. Candles provide light, heat, and psychological comfort that battery-powered devices can't match. During the economic crisis in Lebanon, my contact Ahmed told me something that stuck with me. He said, "The first thing that breaks people psychologically is when they're sitting in complete darkness. Candles kept families together when everything else was falling apart." Here's the supply chain reality. Paraffin wax is a petroleum byproduct. When oil prices skyrocket during economic instability, candle production becomes too expensive for most manufacturers. In Argentina's collapse, candle prices increased by 800% because the raw materials were being exported instead of used domestically. But here's what most preppers get wrong about matches. They stock regular matches that get ruined by moisture. You need waterproof matches and storm matches that burn for 12-15 seconds each. During power outages, you can't afford to waste matches trying to light wet wood or candles in windy conditions. My personal setup includes 200 long-burning candles, 500 waterproof matches, and 10 boxes of those military-grade storm matches. I learned this from talking to a guy who survived the Yugoslavian wars. He said candles were more valuable than cigarettes for trading. Item 6. Over-the-counter medications. This one hits close to home because my neighbor learned it the hard way. During the supply chain issues in 2022, ibuprofen disappeared from shelves for 3 weeks. Sharon out during a dental emergency and ended up in the ER because she couldn't manage the pain. Here's what happens during economic collapses that most people don't understand. Pharmaceutical supply chains are incredibly complex and international. A single aspirin tablet requires materials from 12 different countries. When currencies collapse and trade breaks down, even basic medications become impossible to find. The data from Venezuela is terrifying. Aspirin increased in price by 200% between 2017 and 2019. People were crushing up vitamins and trying to use them for pain relief. Pharmacies were being robbed not for narcotics, but for basic pain relievers and stomach medicines. But here's the kicker. It's not just about pain. During high-stress situations like economic collapse, people develop more headaches, stomach issues, and sleep problems. The demand for basic medications skyrockets right when supply disappears. Stock up on these essentials now: ibuprofen, acetaminophen, antacids, anti-diarrheal medication, and antihistamines. Check expiration dates every 6 months and rotate your supply. Most of these medications remain effective for 2 to 3 years past their expiration date when stored properly. Item 7. Garbage bags. Bet you didn't see this one coming. But let me tell you why garbage bags will become absolute gold during an economic collapse. During the 2001 Argentina economic crisis, heavy-duty garbage bags were being sold for $5 each. People were using them for everything except garbage. Here's what I learned. From studying multiple economic collapses, when infrastructure breaks down, waste management stops. Garbage piles up, attracting rats and creating disease. Families with garbage bags could maintain sanitation and health when their neighbors couldn't. But that's just the beginning. Garbage bags become multi-purpose survival tools. They're waterproof shelter. They can collect rainwater. They insulate windows. And they can even be used as emergency clothing in extreme weather. During Hurricane Katrina, people used them as flotation devices. The supply chain reality is brutal. Plastic. Bag manufacturing requires steady electricity and petroleum-based materials. When either becomes unreliable, production stops completely. I spoke with a manufacturer who told me their facility can't operate during rolling blackouts because the plastic molding process can't be interrupted. Heavy-duty contractor bags are what you want, 3 mil thickness minimum. Regular kitchen bags tear too easily and won't handle the multiple uses you'll need them for. I keep 200 bags stored, which sounds crazy until you realize they could literally keep your family healthy when sanitation services collapse. Item 8. Aluminum foil. Now this might sound random, but aluminum foil becomes incredibly valuable during infrastructure breakdown. The reason is simple. It's the only household item that can block electromagnetic interference, create makeshift cooking surfaces, and preserve food without refrigeration. During the power grid failures in Texas, people were using aluminum foil to create solar ovens and signal mirrors. But here's what most people don't know. Heavy-duty aluminum foil can actually be used to repair small holes in roofing and plumbing. It's not permanent, but it'll keep your house functional when repair services aren't available. The manufacturing reality is harsh. Aluminum foil requires massive amounts of electricity to produce. During economic instability, aluminum plants are often the first industrial facilities to shut down because they can't afford the power costs. In Venezuela, aluminum foil disappeared completely from stores for over a year. Here's a survival hack I learned from a guy who lived through the Bosnian War. Aluminum foil can be shaped into basic tools and weapons if needed. It can also be used to create Faraday cages to protect electronic devices from electromagnetic pulses. Most people think that's paranoid until they realize how fragile our electronic infrastructure really is. Stock the heavy-duty stuff, 18-inch wide, extra strong. I keep 10 rolls stored because it's lightweight, takes up minimal space, and has dozens of survival applications that most people never consider. Item 9. Duct tape. If you think duct tape is just for fixing things, you're missing the bigger picture. During economic collapses, duct tape becomes the universal problem solver when professional repair services disappear and replacement parts become impossible to find. Here's a reality check from post-collapsed Venezuela. A single roll of quality duct tape was trading for a week's worth of food in 2018. Why? Because when your roof leaks, your car window breaks, or your water pipe cracks, duct tape might be the only thing standing between you and disaster. But here's what really opened my eyes. NASA uses duct tape on the International Space Station because it's reliable in extreme conditions. If it's good enough for space, it's good enough for economic collapse. Apollo 13 was literally saved by duct tape and cardboard when their air filtration system failed. The supply chain vulnerability is real. Duct tape requires steady production of adhesive chemicals and cloth backing material. Both become scarce when manufacturing supply chains break down. During the 2020 supply issues, quality duct tape was backordered for months. My personal stockpile includes 20 rolls of different types, standard gray, clear, and white. Each has different applications. Clear tape is great for windows, white tape reflects heat better, and gray is the strongest. Store them in moderate temperatures, extreme heat ruins the adhesive. Item 10. Bleach, let me end with the most critical item that could literally save your family's life: household bleach. When water treatment plants fail during economic collapse, bleach becomes your only reliable way to purify drinking water and disinfect surfaces. Here's the terrifying reality from multiple collapsed economies. Waterborne diseases kill more people in the first 6 months of infrastructure failure than food shortages do. In Venezuela, cholera and dysentery cases increased by 600% when water treatment became unreliable. But here's what most people get wrong about bleach storage. It has a shelf life. Standard household bleach loses potency after about a year. However, if you store it properly in cool, dark conditions, it can remain effective for sanitization for up to 3 years. Just use more of it to achieve the same disinfection level. The water purification formula is critical to memorize. 8 drops of unscented bleach per gallon of water, mix and wait 30 minutes. This kills bacteria, viruses, and most parasites. During the Flint water crisis, this knowledge literally saved families from lead poisoning complications. Stock unscented, regular household bleach only, not the colored or scented varieties. Those contain chemicals that can make water unsafe to drink. I keep a 6-month supply rotated regularly, and I've taught every member of my family the water purification ratios. Look, I'm not trying to scare you into buying everything in sight. But I've studied enough economic collapses to know that preparation isn't paranoia. It's common sense. These 10 household products become valuable because they solve basic human needs when normal supply chains break down. The families who prepared quietly and methodically were the ones who helped their neighbors instead of competing with them for scraps. That's the difference between surviving and thriving when things get tough. If this video opened your eyes to something you hadn't considered, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me which item surprised you most. Next week, I'm revealing the 7 biggest mistakes people make when stocking up for emergencies, and mistake number 3 has already cost families their lives. Remember, we're not preparing for the end of the world. We're preparing to help our communities rebuild when temporary crises hit. Stay smart, stay prepared, and I'll see you in the next one.